Welcome back. The CDC is directly contradicting Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over his guidance surrounding the COVID vaccine for children. Kennedy, who of course has a history of anti-vaccine stances and is not a trained scientist, said last week that the Trump administration would not recommend the COVID vaccine for healthy children. But now the CDC is saying it does advise parents to have their kids receive the vaccine, but only after consulting with their medical provider or considering, quote, personal preference, caveats that did not exist under the Biden administration. Joining us now, NBC News medical contributor Dr. Vin Gupta. Dr. Gupta, thank you for being here this morning. Certainly, the result here is going to be confusion, but walk us through what this now really means for parents who do want to have their children vaccinated. Are they going to have obstacles with insurance, let's say, covering it? And what would simply your recommendation be? Should children receive this vaccine?
Yeah, Jonathan, first of all, to your first question, yes, because nothing has fundamentally changed. Is the risk, the one thing that has changed is the risk of COVID different than when we first had this conversation back in early 2020, of course, and I think we all recognize that. But 12,000 children were admitted to emergency rooms and hospitals across the country in this last cold and flu season with COVID-19, and 2/3 of those were under 5. And so we do know, and this is from the American Academy of Pediatrics and other societies, that's still important. This is still a risk on par with flu. We're not even having this discussion with flu, so why are we having it with COVID? When it comes to what this impact is going to have, and let's broaden the aperture to women that are pregnant, because they didn't advise anything different. The CDC, that is, on Friday when they slightly changed some of the language here. When it comes to pregnant women, and or when it comes to children, the shared decision-making construct that they're talking about, effectively, this is code in this case for decreased access, because exactly to your point, insurance companies like clean language. They like to say, or they like to cite FDA, CDC saying, we recommend. Shared decision-making, what does that mean? It's not clear, but this is going to be an obstacle for people to get covered access, if they want it, to the COVID shot for their children. They should do that. And for pregnant women, really critically, they are at high risk. We know that COVID-19 infection, even today, if you get that when you're pregnant in the first trimester, there's an increased risk of preeclampsia, preterm birth, and up to and potentially including miscarriage. This is not a joke. This is not something to take lightly, but that's exactly what they're doing. And so decreased access, up to $200 if you want this shot, and you have to pay out of pocket. And by the way, Jonathan, most people get their COVID shots, a lot of them in retail pharmacies. This shared decision-making construct is not possible at scale in many pharmacies across the country because they're busy or pharmacists can't necessarily vaccinate. So this is challenging, and they know exactly what they're doing. Yeah,
I was just going to say, I and my family, look, it's a CVS, you get the shot. And there's no consult there. Certainly, this is a conversation we're going to keep having as we head towards colder months and COVID tends to ramp back up. But Dr. Gupta, in other vaccine news, the Trump administration has canceled the U.S. government's contract with Moderna to develop a vaccine for bird flu. The recent strain of the avian flu arrived in the U.S. in 2022, and it's led to the deaths of over 170 million birds, resulting in a nationwide spike in egg prices. Last year, bird flu infected more than 1,000 herds of cattle, as well as 70 people. Although this strain is not yet highly contagious for humans, infectious disease experts worry the next pandemic could indeed come from an avian flu. So, Dr. Gupta, we have seen this administration slash funding for so much in the way of research and development, including people thought were very promising HIV treatments, vaccines there. And now this avian flu. Give us your sense on this one, because as we just said, there are experts who think the next big, terrible pandemic might come from exactly this. What's the point here? Why are they doing this?
Again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is even consistent with President Trump's view of wise investments in biomedical research. Remember, Operation Warp Speed, probably his signature achievement during the COVID pandemic and in his first term. So this is. I wonder how much he's clued into exactly what's happening here, because this is not his stuff even from his prior precedents. This doesn't really make any sense. And so for all your viewers out there, just to keep in mind, What's happening is there's a promising phase 1, phase 2 early stage vaccine candidate for avian flu. And it's bird flu that is changing exactly as you point out, Jonathan, right before our eyes. It went from birds to cattle to mountain lions. I mean, this thing is changing at a speed we haven't seen before. And so, yes, exactly. We're worried that the next pandemic is not a matter of if, but when. And it's likely going to be flu that's changing, because flu changes unlike any other virus. And so this is the concern. But then too, for your viewers, the breakout capacity to build a number of vaccines if we need it in a time to save lives should something bad happen, that can take a few months to build up capacity and manufacture it. But to have a candidate vaccine can take years to develop, 3 to 5 years in the case of this new technology. So by nipping it in the bud right now, which is exactly what they're doing, what did Moderna say? They announced favorable clinical trial results, and they said, we're going to go seek funding elsewhere. What does that mean? Americans will be last in line potentially to actually get a vaccine if they need it.
Yeah, a series of ill-considered decisions, it seems. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Vin Gupta. Thank you, Dr. Gupta. We will talk to you again soon. Switching gears now.